5 today, the Sermon on the Mount. One of Jesus' most famous sermons, and it's a bunch of blessings. So he's blessing the people who gathered at the Sermon on the Mount, and he casts these blessings right into the room for anyone who has ears to listen. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand. And it gives light in all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. It's the word of our Lord. Please be seated. Darkness existed before the world did, according to Genesis. It's hard for us to imagine the darkness of the ancient world before electricity, even when we go camping, right? We take flashlights and lanterns and have cell phones to shine a little bit. Think about a world that's just almost completely dark at night. You have the campfire. Everybody gathers around the campfire. But if you want to go on a journey, you need a torch. Could be your life. I'm not embarrassed to admit that when I go downstairs and the lamp's off in the middle of the night, it's unplugged, I have one hand on the wall trying to feel my way so I'm not going to run into something. I have one hand up in front of my face so nothing slaps me in the face, right? I'm sure I'm the only one that doesn't like the dark. We equate dark with danger. And there's a reason that we equate dark with danger. And they lived in a world of literal darkness, and they lived in a world of metaphorical darkness. Times were tough for these people that he's talking to. This group of people that he's talking to are under occupation. Roman occupation. They've had things tough. That's why he's saying things earlier, right before he says this. Part of the Beatitudes, he says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are you when people revile you, people persecute you." If a Roman centurion was to take your sister and then bring her back later, what are you going to do? You kill one of them, they're going to kill 100 of you. These people, no rights, they are living under tough times. And so, if you're the one without any problems, this message isn't for you. But if you struggle sometimes, Jesus is talking to you. Jesus is talking to a young mom who lives by herself and she just lost her job. Jesus is talking to you. He's talking to an elderly woman who just lost her husband of 45 years. Jesus is talking to you. He's talking to a black or Muslim man who's been pulled over by an aggressive-looking police officer. He's talking to you. He's talking to an officer responding to a threatening situation with unknown variables. He's talking to you. A mother who's dealing with an alcoholic husband, trying to keep the family together. He's talking to you. Jesus is talking to you in the midst of your struggles. You are the light of the world. And it's just possible that we underestimate the impact that we can have in other people's lives. It's just possible that we can make more of a difference? It's possible. Because even a small candle flame lights up a big room. At Lamont UMC, there was a guy there named Bud. Bud was a big old guy, always happy, smiling, coming around the church, what can I help with, what can I do, giving people rides, always ready with a smile and a hug. I wish I was more like Bud. But if you're like Bud, you are the light of the world. My Aunt Kathy had just divorced Warren. They were divorced, living apart. It had been a period of time, some months, and Warren had a massive stroke. Debilitated. She didn't have to do anything. Legally, she is free of obligation. But she took him back in under her care, paid for his medical rehabilitation, and for 8 years was with him, taking care of him. And you're all like Warren, like Kathy. You are the light of the world. Whoever gives a cup of cold water to one of these little ones, truly I tell you, none of you will lose your reward. There's a song called Diner by Widespread Panic, and it's written about a homeless person. He lives in a back alley out next to a cafe on the corner in an urban area, a diner. There's two characters in the story. There's the homeless person and there's the waitress. And the perspective shared is that of the homeless person. Here's an excerpt. She's beautiful. She's cooking in the diner today. She opened up the back door early to help a poor boy out. Hungry, 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 cold and sleepy. Yeah, I couldn't sleep. It's getting a little cold out there. I know, she said. That's why I got here early too. Sit down and I'll turn on the radio. Dark outside these walls, but light inside these windows. Music flowing, light filling up on yesterday's coffee. Just born now, a little sunshine peeking over the house over there. Moving in through town square, in through these windows, keeping coffee a little warm, a little longer. Hanging in the light with Miss Lee. Basking in the light of Miss Lee. If you're at all like Miss Lee, you're the light of the world. In ancient Persia, the society resembled our society quite a bit, in many ways at least. So they were very big on accumulating possessions, male-dominated power, warfare. Queen Esther was married to Haman. He was one of the kings of the land. But she went to Xerxes. If you've ever seen the movie 300, Xerxes is the Persian king that they deify. They have him lifted up. He's not a nice person, apparently. Queen Esther goes to Xerxes and risked her life and said, "You're not treating these Hebrew people well." And not only did he spare her life, he freed her people. And if you're at all like Queen Esther, you're the light of the world. In everything you do to others as you would have them do unto you, This is the law and the prophets. In 1984, in eastern St. Louis, someone got shot right outside of a shopping gas station, shopping mart. The person that they picked up and arrested for doing it swore that it wasn't him. Of course it wasn't him, right? He wasn't that worried because he knew that he didn't do it. In fact, he had somebody from the behind the register who saw the whole thing come and testify at his hearing. He said, no, his skin is way darker than the shooter's. Well, the judge threw out her testimony and allowed in the testimony of two jailhouse snitches who coincidentally were receiving reductions in their own sentences by testifying against him. The judge kept that testimony in. And so my friend Daryl, as he walked into the penitentiary, there was a big sign, banner, and it said, "Leave all your hopes and dreams here." Saw horrible things, heard horrible things, was in constant fear for his life. Went through the full range of appeals, nothing. He was sentenced to death. And in his darkest moment, he got down on his knees with tears streaming from his eyes. And he said, "Jesus, if you're real, you know I didn't do this. I've done other things, but I didn't do this. I don't deserve this. If you get me out of this, I will proclaim your name for the rest of my life." Within 30 days, he received a letter from a group called the Innocence Project, who were taking up cases of those like him that offered DNA evidence, that reviewed the case and found mitigating circumstances why it might be a case they might want to take up. And even though he still had to wait a few years before it all unraveled, and they ended up getting him free. They used the DNA evidence. He walked out of jail after spending 24 years in jail for a murder he didn't commit. His little baby was 2 months old when he went to jail. And last spring, he made good on his part and graduated from the St. Paul School of Theology, where I'm going to school. His name is Daryl Burton. All because a few lawyers got together one day and saw what was happening in the world. And they said, "We want to make a difference." And if you're like anyone associated with the Innocence Project, you're the light of the world. Fred Craddock tells a story early in his ministry. He was a young minister, 22, 23 years old. And he was making a pastoral visit. Yes, some of the people said, "This woman's not doing too well." She didn't come to church that often, but she wasn't doing too well. And so he goes and he shows up at her trailer. And when he walks in, there's just this ripeness and smell. And you know, there's trash all over the floor. I mean, just... He swore from the couches and the sofas and everything, he saw like mites or fleas or bed bugs jumping around. She said, "Do you want to have a seat?" He said, "No, thank you." And as she's talking to him, part of him doesn't want to be there. And then a car rolled up into the driveway, and a little girl in a sunflower dress got out, came up the porch, ran inside, jumped up on Grandma's lap and said, "Grandma, I love you." He said he learned a lot about the ministry You're at all like that little girl. You are the light of the world.